The Polar Bear's Quest. Please subscribe so you don't miss a new story. Once upon a time, in the vast, icy wilderness of the Arctic, there lived a magnificent polar bear named Magnus. He was the mightiest and wisest bear in the region, with a heart as pure as the snow that covered the land. Magnus' white fur gleamed in the sun, and his piercing blue eyes held an ancient wisdom that had been passed down through generations of polar bears. The Arctic was a land of ice and snow, where the temperatures were bitterly cold, and the landscape was harsh and unforgiving. Yet, Magnus embraced his home with pride, knowing that he was an essential part of the delicate balance that kept this unique ecosystem alive. He roamed the frozen tundra, hunting seals and fish to sustain himself and his family. One winter, a sense of unease gripped Magnus as he noticed a significant change in the ice and the patterns of the animal's behavior. The ice floes seemed thinner, and the seals were becoming scarce. Even the skies above were filled with ominous clouds, and the winds carried a sense of foreboding. In the heart of the Arctic, there stood a magical glacier known as the Crystal Ice Palace, where the great ice spirit resided. The ice spirit was the guardian of the Arctic, entrusted with maintaining the delicate balance of its ecosystems. He was ancient, with a voice that sounded like a distant glacier cracking. Magnus felt compelled to seek guidance from the ice spirit. With a heavy heart, he embarked on a perilous journey towards the Crystal Ice Palace. The path was treacherous, filled with icy cliffs and freezing storms, but Magnus was determined to save his home and protect his fellow creatures. After days of relentless travel, Magnus finally reached the Crystal Ice Palace. The palace was a magnificent structure, gleaming with 1,000 shades of blue and radiating an aura of mystic power. The ice spirit stood at its entrance, his ethereal form almost blending with the ice around him. "Great ice spirit," Magnus called out with respect, "I come seeking your wisdom. The Arctic is changing, and the balance is in peril. I fear for the future of my home and my fellow beings." The ice spirit's eyes shimmered with recognition as he looked upon the noble polar bear. "Magnus, guardian of the Arctic, I have been expecting you. The balance of the Arctic is indeed in jeopardy. The world beyond the ice has changed, and the actions of humans have disturbed the harmony of this land." Magnus was startled but not entirely surprised. He had heard tales of humans and their impact on the environment, but he never imagined that their actions could reach the farthest corners of the Arctic. The ice spirit continued, "In the heart of the Arctic lies a sacred crystal that has the power to heal and restore the balance of nature. But the crystal has been stolen by humans who sought its power for their own gain. Without it, the Arctic's delicate ecosystem is at risk of collapse." Filled with determination, Magnus asked, "How can I retrieve the crystal and restore balance to our home?" The ice spirit spoke softly, "Beyond the treacherous Arctic, across the ocean and over the mountains, lies the realm of humans. You must journey there, brave the dangers that await, and retrieve the crystal. But beware, for the human world is vastly different from ours, and danger lurks at every corner." With newfound purpose, Magnus set off on his quest to the human world. He crossed icy seas, navigated dense forests, and faced fierce storms. Along the way, he encountered other animals struggling with the changes brought on by humans. He helped them as best he could, offering them hope and courage to carry on. Finally, after an arduous journey, Magnus reached the human settlement where the sacred crystal was held captive. The place was filled with noise, pollution, and an air of restlessness. Humans moved about in their daily routines, seemingly unaware of the impact they were having on the Arctic and the world. Gathering all his strength and wisdom, Magnus devised a plan to retrieve the crystal without causing harm to the humans. With a gentle and persuasive approach, he managed to communicate with a kind-hearted human who was sympathetic to his cause. The human agreed to return the sacred crystal, realizing the error of their actions. Grateful for Magnus' wisdom and compassion, the human not only returned the crystal but also pledged to work towards protecting the environment and spreading awareness about the Arctic's plight. With the crystal safely in his possession, Magnus embarked on the long journey back to the Arctic. Along the way, he noticed changes in the human world. Small steps were being taken to preserve nature and protect the environment, all inspired by the polar bear's quest. Finally, Magnus reached the Crystal Ice Palace, where the ice spirit stood waiting. He placed the sacred crystal back in its rightful place, and the palace glowed with renewed power. "Thank you, noble Magnus," the ice spirit said, his voice resonating with gratitude. "You have shown bravery, compassion, and wisdom beyond measure. The Arctic owes its salvation to your heroic quest." From that day forward, the Arctic began to heal. The ice grew thicker, the seals returned, and the animals thrived once more. Magnus became a symbol of hope and resilience, inspiring all creatures to work together to protect their home. The tale of Magnus, the wise and mighty polar bear, spread far and wide. Humans who heard of his quest were touched by his bravery and the importance of preserving the fragile balance of nature. And so, the story of Magnus, the polar bear, continued to be passed down through generations, reminding all who heard it of the profound impact a single creature could have when they set their heart on protecting the environment they called home. The end. Don't forget to subscribe.